But do not trust to hope. It has forsaken these lands.
Hell yes.
Nerdrotic.com.
Subversion, the undermining of the power and authority of an established system, institution, or a classic story that's so beloved it has scholars and it's considered sacred text to its fandom. In July of 2017, the Tolkien estate settled a lawsuit between Warner Brothers and MGM, allowing them to shop around a Lord of the Rings TV show. In September of 2017, Jeff Bezos of Amazon announced he wanted his Game of Thrones. On November 13, 2017, Amazon acquired the rights to The Lord of the Rings. That was 1,529 days ago, and since then, we've received a teaser, a single image, and today, another teaser. Also, within those 1,529 days, there have been a lot, and I mean a lot, of red flags, including Jeff Bezos stating he wanted his own Game of Thrones when Game of Thrones already exists. Incidentally, within those 1,529 days, Game of Thrones managed to announce 5 prequels, destroy the series with a disastrous Season 8, cancel the 5 prequels, including one they had in production, wasting $30 million, announce more prequels, get one into production called The House of the Dragon, and they may have completed it before the completion of Lord of the Rings. But I have to admit, George R. R. Martin did subvert one of the greatest tropes of Tolkien, ending the story. And the red flags, aside from Jeff Bezos saying he wanted his Game of Thrones and then acquiring the rights to Lord of the Rings, hiring J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay, Opie and Opie, both formerly of Bad Reboot, a company well known for destroying beloved franchises. Rumors of nudity and the hiring of an intimacy coordinator, prioritizing inclusivity, diversity, and representation. Adapting the source material of essentially a history book with no plot, characterization, or dialogue. Rumors of modern themes being infused in what Tolkien wanted to be a mythology for England. Yes, lots of rumors, and man, I haven't told you the half of it. I have been emailed quite a bit since my Lord of the Rings videos from last year, and I usually don't run with rumors, but I'll give you this one. Emailed to me by a random stranger who I've never met, who says he watches my channel, says he is working on this peripherally, somehow has stated that there will be LGBTQ plus representation in Lord of the Rings on Prime.
Ah, here we go again.
Additionally, according to my good friend Az from HeelvsBabyface, who has seen the upcoming trailer, who said to me he couldn't tell you what the story's about, but he can tell you it's going to be diverse. But what we do know is the title, which is now officially called The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. Hashtag LOTR, or LOTROP, or LOTRROP. Now, I'd like to thank Lady Gravemaster for giving me the information on this right when it dropped at about 7 o'clock in the morning. I went and watched the 1-minute teaser trailer, and immediately I wasn't impressed. My very first reaction was, this looks like the kind of trailer you would see for a game that you play on your phone. To be fair, later on, I watched the making of video, which was far superior than the end product, because this was all done with real carved wood, and they poured, I guess, real metal into that and had real water pouring over it, and it still looked terrible, which probably had something to do with the extremely high frame rate of the camera. Still, this could be some ominous foreshadowing for the Rings of Power. You can put all the money you want into a production. You can have the best special effects. They can be all practical. You can have the best sets, the best costuming. But if you don't stay true to the story, to the foundation of Tolkien's work, it'll still just look like a cheap product in the end. I'm sure a trailer isn't that far behind, but I have a radical idea. Why didn't you just release that? As a matter of fact, why haven't we had 3 by now? Where are all the production stills? Well, I have a theory about this. It took Amazon a long time to get the production going on this, and coincidentally, it started ramping up right around the time Christopher Tolkien died. One of the greatest sons who's ever lived, guarding his father's legacy to his dying breath. Unfortunately, he couldn't live forever, and I think all bets are off now. I'm guessing we're going to see a Lord of the Rings that looks a lot like the Netflix adaptation meme, and if Amazon fucks picks up Lord of the Rings, they're going to have their own. And just a quick reminder, Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings first teaser trailer came out in April of 2000, a full year and a half before Fellowship of the Ring came out. We did learn one additional detail about the series in the lengthy press release from Amazon Prime. Prime Video's most anticipated new series of 2022 reveals its title, The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. Doesn't exactly roll off the tongue. The title treatment is unveiled in live-action splendor. Watch as the title is forged from real molten metal, running like fiery rivers through the hand-carved wooden ravines to craft its silvery letter forms. Culver City, California, January 19, 2022. Prime Video, The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power officially has a name, and it hints at what's to come. The television series' complete title was unveiled today, and the significance behind the subtitle will not be lost on J.R.R. Tolkien fans, foreshadowing an epic story that welds the major events of Tolkien's Second Age together, the forging of the iconic rings. The multi-series drama, The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, will premiere exclusively on Prime Video in more than 240 countries and territories around the world in multiple languages on Friday, September 2nd, with new episodes available weekly. You know what else isn't going to be lost on J.R.R. Tolkien fans? You are premiering the series on the date he died.
Alright, f*** you, mate, and f*** off.
So what's that additional information? Well, it takes place thousands of years before The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, something we already pretty much knew. So there are two pretty huge concerns with Tolkien fans. How in the hell are you going to condense something over thousands of years? And is this going to be woke garbage? Does it take place 1,000 years or thousands of years before The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings? There is roughly 3,500 years in the Second Age, and this series apparently wants to cover all of it, including Isildur, who was born 1,500 years after the forging of the Rings of Power, who Amazon decided to give a sister because the one thing the Tolkien legendarium lacked was characters. It only has about 750 of them. Yes, you heard me right. Amazon is creating original characters, including a possible brother for Galadriel, who ends up leading a pack of orcs. Then there's that one production still that Amazon shared that makes things even more confusing. This is from Esquire. The image contains a major clue. 2 glowing trees spotted in the distance. These trees are likely Telperion and Laureline, also known as the 2 trees of the Valinor. Well, back in the day in Middle-earth, it used to be flat, and originally it was lit by 2 lamps, then 2 trees, then they were destroyed by Melkor, later to be called Morgoth. The trees were destroyed after the ending of the war for the Silmarils. That's right, a war over more jewelry. So God Iluvatar had to create the sun and the moon, and Middle-earth wasn't round until the fall of Numenor, which apparently is supposed to be in this show as well. When Amazon originally bought the rights, it was reported there were rules. The Tolkien estate had veto power, and I'm guessing Christopher used it quite a bit, but now that he's gone, I'm guessing the rest of the heirs are just counting the money. Back when Tom Shippey was still somewhat involved in the project, he was asked, so does Amazon have free reign in the interpretation? Amazon has a relatively free hand when it comes to adding something since, as I said, very few details are known about this time span. The Tolkien estate will insist that the main shape of the Second Age is not altered. Sauron invades Eredor, is forced back by a Númenórean expedition, is returned to Númenor. There he corrupts the Númenóreans and seduces them to break their ban of the Valar. All this, the course of history, must remain the same. But you can add new characters and ask a lot of questions like, what was Sauron doing in the meantime? Where was he after Morgoth was defeated? Theoretically, Amazon can answer these questions by inventing the answers, since Tolkien did not describe it. But it must not contradict anything which Tolkien did say. That's what Amazon has to watch out for. It must be canonical. It is impossible to change the boundaries which Tolkien has created. It is necessary to remain Tolkienian. As far as Isildur having a sister, which is an original character, and Galadriel having a brother, which is an original character, Those are just rumors from scoopers. There's also rumors that Galadriel's not only going to be the star of the show, she's going to be all over the place, including events she was never intended to be in. Here lies the problem, the gray areas. Shippy said that Amazon can't go against anything Tolkien wrote, but what about the things he wasn't specific on? Or what about the things he didn't say, but we all know what he really meant? Amazon's going to use those gray areas to what I'm betting they're going to call favorably interpret, but I will call manipulate Tolkien's words to fit in modernity. For instance, Lenny Henry recently came out and confirmed there's going to be black hobbits.
You know, Peter Jackson, he only wanted to use them light-skinned hobbits. He won't have nothing to do with us darker-skinned hobbits. I mean, I'm the only brother in the Shire.
Actor Lenny Henry confirms radical changes to hobbits in Amazon's The Lord of the Rings series. Not only radical changes to the hobbits, radical changes to the Second Age. I'm a black hobbit. It's brilliant. Henry continued. And what's notable about the run of the book, it's a prequel to the age that we've seen in the films and in the books. It's about the early days of the Shire. Aside from the fact that hobbits weren't mentioned in the Second Age, there was no Shire either. Maybe he misspoke, not really sure. It's the early days of it, so we're an indigenous population of Harfoots. We're hobbits, but we're called Harfoots, and we're multicultural. We're a tribe. We're not a race. So there are black, Asian, and brown, and even Maori types within it. So there's 3 types of hobbits: Harfoots, Stores, and Fallowhides. And I do believe it was the Harfoots where Tolkien mentioned they were a bit browner of skin. So apparently they're indigenous, although hobbits aren't indigenous to the Shire. They live there, but they aren't from there. They're also not a race, but they're multicultural. And I want to remind you that Tolkien thought about stuff like this.
He was creating a history, a myth, a mythology for England, he called it. And that involved not just a story, it involved geography, cartography, geology, ethnography, any other ography you like. He had to do it all. And he did.
Studios love to release stuff early when they know something is good, and they tend to not release stuff early when they know something is a giant turd, and I think that's the case with Lord of the Rings, and I think Lenny Henry let the cat out of the bag, and that explains why we haven't gotten that many production photos or any trailers until now. And no, I'm not going to give it the benefit of the doubt, because unfortunately I've seen everything from Hollywood in the last few years, and Lenny Henry just confirmed all of our biggest concerns for this show. I think it's far more likely we're going to get a Lord of the Rings that looks like this meme that Jeremy from The Quartering posted today. I am Aragorn, son of Arathorn. I will claim the throne and save my people. I'm like Tanya, Aragorn's daughter. My pronouns are she, them. We must fight the Gondorian nationalists. Not going to be surprised at all to see diverse elves, inclusive dwarves, representative hobbits, an all-female legion of Númenórean warriors led by the warrior Galadriel in full body armor, cutting through orcs and goblins like they're butter. And we'll finally get the answer to the question that scholars, including Tom Shippey, have been asking for decades. What are Sauron's pronouns? And I guess there's another question. When exactly was the Middle-earth genocide? In all seriousness, what's this a prequel to? The books? The Peter Jackson films? Or possibly a potential remake of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings on Amazon? Anything is possible. Like I said in past videos, I want this to be the greatest show ever made. I want to cover something good. It will be far more beneficial for my channel and fandom. The things that we love, the things that we've made worth billions of dollars, are just trophies to these giant corporations, and that makes them very easy for creator activists to infiltrate and turn them into their own personal political platform. Tolkien fans are going to know what it's like to be a Star Wars fan, a Star Trek fan, a Doctor Who fan, or currently an MCU fan, and be ready for all of the pejoratives, and don't worry about them at all. Like I said with my Doctor Who coverage, wanting an established male character to remain that way doesn't make you a sexist, it makes you a fan of Doctor Who, and not wanting any modern politics or modern messaging to go into anything Lord of the Rings doesn't make you anything other than a fan of Tolkien. So is Lord of the Rings going to be woke? Well, I think I already know the answer, but I guess we'll find out when the trailer drops. And when we get that confirmation,
We come to it at last. The great battle of our time.
Nerdrotic.com. Please subscribe.